back to our geometry notes. So tonight we're going to look at angle pairs, but before we do that, you need to have an estimate and an idea of what an angle is. So I have uploaded an interactive, it's a Protractor Interactive, and I would like you to go to that Protractor Interactive and play around with it. You should know what a 60-degree angle looks like, a 10-degree angle, a 130-degree angle, a 270-degree angle, etc. Okay, because when you're solving for angles or comparing angles, you should know if something makes sense. I think most of you are good with this, but I would like you to go to the interactive and humor me nevertheless. So you could do that now. You can pause the video and do it now, or if you'd prefer, you can take the notes and then just remember there's one more thing you need to do, and that's to go to the the Protractor Interactive and have some fun. So the next thing we need to do is take notes on the angle pairs. I know that this is a lot of vocabulary for you. Some of it I hope is review, or at least that you've heard it before. I think today some of these terms will be new for you, but we'll be working with them frequently. So it's important that you get these down and learn their definitions. So complementary angles, hopefully that might be review. Not sure, but they are two angles whose sum is 90 degrees. Two angles whose sum is 90 degrees. Supplementary angles are two angles whose sum is 180 degrees. All right, so you can think complementary begins with a C, comes before S, and 90 comes before 180. That's a good way of remembering complementary versus supplementary. Also, some people think complementary begins with a C, and that stands for corner, so it kind of makes a 90-degree angle. Adjacent angles. If you're adjacent to somebody, you are next to them. So adjacent angles are two angles with a common side and excuse me, a common vertex. What that means is if I were to draw an angle here and an angle here, and then maybe split it, okay, somewhere in the middle. These are two angles that have a common side here, this is the common side, and a common vertex here. We talked about that word vertex. So those are adjacent angles. Congruent angles are two angles with the same measure, and the symbol for congruent is that little equal sign with the little squiggly tilde on top. Linear pair. In the word linear, you will see the word line. Very important, because linear pair of angles are a pair of adjacent angles, like we just talked about, that form a straight line. And angles in a linear pair are supplementary. So if you think about that, I have adjacent angles, they share a common vertex, they have a common side, and they form a straight line, okay? And they are supplementary because they equal 180 degrees. Vertical angles. Vertical angles are two non-adjacent angles formed by intersecting lines. Vertical angles are congruent, okay? So in the example above, that should read, angle 1 and angle 3 are vertical angles. So if you look at this, we have all different kinds of things going on here. We have angle 1 and angle 3 are vertical angles. And if you can look at that also, you will notice that they kind of form V's. Another way to remember vertical, okay? They have that V there. Now, 2 and 4, coincidentally, are also vertical angles. They are congruent, all right? And 1 and 2 are going to be supplementary because they are a linear pair. 2 and 3 are a linear pair. 3 and 4 are a linear pair. 4 and 1 are a linear pair. Make sense? All right, so let's look at how we solve problems with these. I actually love all the angle problems because they're pretty straightforward. All right? So look at the first example. You should be able to fill in all of those missing angle measures. Well, if this is 125, I can start with the vertical angle or I can start with the linear pair. I could either say I know that 2 has to be also 125, Or I could say that I know that 125 plus this angle equals 180. So 180 minus 125 would give you the missing angle measure, which coincidentally is also equal to this angle measure. Okay? So you should be able to find all missing angles in that picture. In the second picture, we have here, this is a little symbol that means it's a right angle. If it's a right angle, it's 90 degrees. And since these are vertical angles, this angle also has to be 90 degrees, which means these two angles are complementary. So you can set up an equation setting those x plus 10, right, equals 90 degrees. And you can solve that to get x, and then you will know the missing angle measures. Make sense? So this is the kind of work you should be doing over, I think you should be able to do all those problems, and then you should be able to continue on practicing. This kind of goes along with the protractor exercise. This will be, this section down is going to be where you have to actually figure out the angles. And you'll continue forward here, figuring out more angles. If an angle has a measure, let's look at 12 together. If an angle has a measure of 47 degrees, what is the measure of its complement? Well, that's saying I want the two angles to be complementary. So 47 plus what equals 90? Correct. 43 degrees. And always use units when you're talking about angles. All right, so you should be able to finish most of this up on your own, and we will check your work and continue on tomorrow. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening.